I would like to open it up with kind of posing this question to all of you. And so I'd like to ask you, how different would your life be, or would your life have been if you learned self-love at age 3 or 5, somewhere, like in that age realm space? Um, because for me, I know that my life would have been completely drastically different had I learned self love at such a young and socially preconditioned age. Um, I think that so many aspects would be different, but I'll get into that in a bit. But I really wanted to pose that to you all because I think that it's such a triggering question and it's such a thought provoking question. And it really does bring to the attention just how transformative the power of self love is and how socially transformative it can actually be within social structures, especially education. So, this is kind of the topic that I wanted to dive into. So, for me, if I answered that question, I think in pretty much every way, my life would be different. I know firsthand like from example, um, just how growing up with self love is versus not, due to have witnessed and raised my own sister. My sister is 10 now, but I was her nanny actually until she was 3. So for like 3 years of my 20s. Um, I was blessed enough to watch her and really kind of take her under my wing and really teach her self-love, and then also weave in art and art education as well. And she's just flourished into this like inquisitive um genius 10-year-old who knows herself at age 10 and who is not afraid to like ask questions and be curious and to do herself, and so I think that when put in that context, it's really just like, wow, like her life is just so much like it's flourishing and blooming, and there's such positivity and light in it because from the very she has and had a, like this energetic foundation laid for her life, by me, by people who are conscious of the power and importance of mindfulness and self-love. So, she had this like preordained kind of beautiful foundation laid out, and it then that creates a foundation for her to build her own life upon, to build her values that she comes to on her own upon, and to have her life flourish and bloom based on this solid grounding foundation of self-love that she was blessed to have at such an early age. I mean, she technically, I was infusing self-love into her even before the age of 3. Like, I watched her from 1 to 3. So like I would take her to crystal shops, like when she's like a 2-year-old, she was picking out, crystals and understanding energy and vibration and frequency and how that affects her and her vibe and her body and who she is as a little girl, and so it's also, I think, infused a lot of just like kindness and compassion in her. And, as a Leo sun sign, which she is, I don't know if I think, sometimes no shade, but sometimes that sign can have, the tendency to be a bit just like self-consumed, just like but to a point where you kind of like neglecting other people's like emotions, or you just want to like hoard it all, and you just want to have the shine, and you don't want to share things or whatever. So, I've definitely seen those aspects in her, like, just she doesn't like to share things. It's hard for her, but it's like she has this solid grounding foundation of self-love. So she always extends that kindness and wants to, because she understands how it makes people feel, because she understands that core essence of self-love, and that it starts first, with her. So she understands, like, hey, like she at such a young age can put into context, like, hey, what, I don't think that would make me feel good. So maybe I should share with this person, So anyway, that's just like an example of like how I'm seeing her own life thrive and bloom, and how it really just shows me that, I mean, self-love, it should be included in every structure, in every institution. There's no reason why we should really have to even advocate for self-love, like, because it should be something that is innate and internal, and it is within us all. But it's like there's so many social structures, people, society, like everything, it blocks us from the truth of knowing that which we are, which is that we are always loved, we are always safe, we are limitless, we are full, we are magic, we are complete, we are ultralight beings, as I love to say, thanks to Kanye. um, but like my self-love journey has just been such a lesson, and really just like a lesson in also in how I ultimately, want to parent or bring up, a child or children, and how differently it will be infused with the consciousness of self-love, and with self-love embedded in family structure, embedded in friendship social structures, embedded in education social structure, and especially embedded in art, because I do think the two weave in and out and can flow together and go hand in hand, essentially. So, over the years, as I was really coming into my own self love power and really harnessing how to love myself fully and completely and without hesitation, and, with no shadow of a doubt, this was a time when I was in college and I was really coming into my own. And this was also the time around when my sister was born. And so it's just like, it was such a profound time, because it was just like new life, and then but also new life on top of new life, because I was coming into in a new chapter of my life, in falling in love with myself, and being, embedded in this new frequency, I guess you'll call it, of self-love. And so, she awakened my life in so many ways, but also awakened me to how I want to really run and flourish Stuck as a company. So let's fast forward a bit to when I went to Ghana. And when I went to Ghana and really pioneered our Little Hardest program, that's when I also really saw the profound impact that self-love can have on community, can have on education, and most importantly, can have an art education. So fast forward to when I traveled to Ghana to do our Stuck Designs mural at our partner school, Diamond State Academy, in Kumasi, Ghana. Um, I was just blown away with how our Fly Girl Ghana, Ambassador Medina, she really infused self-love in her teaching, but all in her teachings, but also in her life. So like I was able to see the effect of self-love on community, on education, and on art education, and what a profound difference it made in their, just environment in their culture. Because when I went to after that, and I took one of our stuck programs, our little hardest program, to Watts, it was a much different experience. There was no self love as a base or as a foundation or as a grounding force, and it was a completely different situation and environment, although the disparity and the lack of resources and money was very similar. So, to give a little context, like when I went to Ghana, unlike, it was pretty much the same as like Watts. There were basically no resources. There was no, the kids didn't even have their own pencils. They didn't have their own notebooks. They didn't have their own crayons. They didn't have paper. They didn't, let alone notebooks. They didn't even have textbooks at the time that I went. There had absolutely no resources, and we were, blessed to be able to do what we could. So we were somehow able to, with bare minimum, funding, able to get the girls at Diamond State Academy coloring books and crayons, and really have them start creating for most of them, I'd say like 95% of them, for the very first time in their lives. Like I actually had to teach a lot of them how to hold a crayon in their hands, because they had never colored before. They had never even done it. So, it's interesting, because on the day we, colored with Medina's class, I remember passing out the coloring books and the crayons, and I was, oh my gosh, it was just such a mission, because I didn't know that there were so few resources. So I had to, like, the day before we did it, me and Medina had to rush around Ghana, Kumasi, and just specifically Kumasi, because that's where the main lack of art resources, art supplies are. So we really had to, we went to the mall, we were running all around. The only place that had kind of like art supplies was kind of like I'd say it was like a Smart and Finals looking place. Um, so we really just had to scrap and scrape and find the supplies that we could, and we did. And so I finally got them, and I was so excited, and I passed out the coloring books with the supplies and everything to the kids. And then I was like, all right, let's go, like, let's color. That's what I remember thinking. And then I'm looking, and they're just so confused, and they're all just like, huh? Like, we don't know what to do. What is this? Like, what is this thing you call coloring? So yeah, they just were like so confused. I remember like them having little boxes of crayons in their hands and looking at the coloring books, and they were so confused. And it took me a minute to put together, like, oh, they've like literally never colored before. They've never had this experience before. So I have to teach them. And but at the same time, they did have an understanding of self-love from Medina. They had an understanding of their own uniqueness, their own brilliance, their own individuality, because something that Medina is great at, when she runs her classes, is doing little special things to make her children feel unique. Like, she went viral because she did a handshake. She did a special handshake with each child that entered her class. And it really uplifted each kid. And she was on the news, on multiple news stations, and that's actually how I became in contact with her, connected with her, and met her because I saw that this video went viral and I thought it was such a distinctly unique expression of self love and of celebrating the inner light of each and every child that, enters your space, enters your classroom. So she had that grounding and that foundation, for her space. And so paired with self love, paired with these coloring books that I brought, it really just ignited something super special.